Before we dive in, if you love epic tales of war, strategy, hit that subscribe and like button, turn on notifications, and join our growing legion of warriors. Now, let's begin. The Galactic Trade Hub, an enormous station orbiting a dying star, was where every species in the known universe came to trade, negotiate, and occasionally attempt to assassinate each other over minor price disputes. It was a place of laws that were only loosely enforced, and cultures that clashed, mingled, and sometimes produced truly horrific fusion cuisine. But today, the balance of the galaxy was about to be shaken. Not by war, not by diplomacy, but by one of the strangest mysteries in interstellar history. It all started when Captain Ralzek of the Yelethi Dominion, a towering four-armed reptilian, sat down at a diplomatic banquet hosted by the Terran delegation. He was a warrior, a conqueror, a veteran of 100 battles, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. He stared at the plate before him, his forked tongue flicking out in curiosity. The human across the table, a young officer named Lieutenant Sam Carter, grinned as he cut into his own meal. "Go on, try it," Sam said, chewing happily. "It's just grilled chicken." Ralzek hesitated. The piece of meat on his plate was golden brown, seasoned with alien spices, and smelled oddly familiar. He picked up a piece, his claws slicing through it effortlessly, and popped it into his mouth. His eyes widened. The flavors exploded across his tongue, savory, slightly smoky, with just the right balance of texture and juiciness. It was incredible. "By the stars," Ralzek muttered. This tastes exactly like... Sam smirked. "Let me guess. Something from your homeworld?" Ralzek nodded slowly. "It tastes exactly like Shrivak meat, a creature that once roamed our planet in great numbers before we domesticated them for food." Sam chuckled. "Yeah, that happens a lot. Pretty much every species we've met says the same thing. Everything in the galaxy apparently tastes like chicken." Silence fell over the banquet hall. Dozens of alien representatives from different civilizations turned toward Sam, their eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and horror. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "The humans? They know the taste of the great ancestor beast?" whispered an insectoid diplomat from the Klax Dominion. "This meat. It is identical to our own war feast offerings," hissed an amphibious warrior from the Tovari swarm. A tentacled scholar from the Zenth collective suddenly rose. "This cannot be a coincidence. The flavor, the texture. Throughout the ages, we have written legends of a universal creature, present in every world. And now, we find that the humans possess it?" The room fell silent. Every alien present turned to Sam, their gazes intense. Sam blinked. Guys? It's just a chicken." But the galaxy would soon learn. It was never just a chicken. The tension in the Galactic Trade Hub's banquet hall was thick enough to slice with a plasma cutter. Representatives from over a dozen species stared at Sam Carter, as if he had just declared himself a god. Ralzek, still chewing thoughtfully, finally swallowed and leaned forward. "Human, explain yourself." Sam shifted uncomfortably. Explain what?" The tentacled scholar from the Zenth collective slapped the table with a wet splat. "Do not play games with us, Terran. How do you possess the meat of the ancestor beast?" "Ancestor beast?" Sam repeated, raising an eyebrow. The amphibious warrior from the Tovari swarm let out a guttural croak. "In our history, there is a legend of a creature that once roamed our homeworld in great numbers, one that sustained our ancestors through famine and war. It was said to be a gift from the universe itself, but as civilizations rose, the creature vanished. It became a myth. And now you serve it to us on a plate?" Ralzek slammed a fist onto the table. "The Shrivak of my homeworld, the great ancestor beast of the Klax, the war feast offering of the Tovari. All of them taste like this so-called chicken." His reptilian eyes locked onto Sam. "How do you explain that?" Sam swallowed hard. "I don't know what to tell you guys. It's just poultry. We've had chickens for thousands of years. They're everywhere on Earth. We raise them for food. You know, eggs, drumsticks, barbecue wings." The room collectively recoiled at the casualness of his statement. Barbecue? The Zenth scholar wheezed in horror. The Klax diplomat trembled. You mean to tell me, you breed the ancestor beast and consume it daily? Sam rubbed his temples. Okay, look, I don't know about your ancestor beast thing, but chickens are just chickens. They're birds. They lay eggs. They cluck. They're not some ancient cosmic mystery. Ralzek narrowed his eyes. And yet, their flesh is identical to creatures across countless worlds. A nervous hush fell over the hall. The implications were enormous. This wasn't just a coincidence. There were too many connections. Too many species whose long-lost livestock tasted exactly like Earth's most common bird. The Zenth scholars' tentacles twitched as they brought up a holographic database. This is not possible, they muttered. Our ancestors record the extinction of our great beast over 12,000 cycles ago. And yet, this human claims they have been farming it? A dozen holograms flickered to life. Ancient texts, crumbling stone tablets, faded records of long-extinct creatures. The images varied. Some were reptilian, others bird-like, some covered in fur or scales. But one thing was clear. Every civilization had, at some point in their history, domesticated something that looked eerily similar to a chicken. And every single one of them had mysteriously disappeared. Human, Ralzek growled, his voice low and dangerous. Where did you get this creature? Sam blinked. We, just always had them. The entire hall erupted into chaos. The Klax diplomat shrieked in terror. The Tavari warrior slammed their fists onto the table. The Zenth scholar let out a horrified gurgle, while a representative of the Vorth coalition immediately called for an emergency galactic investigation. They have been hiding the ancestor beasts from the galaxy, one diplomat shouted. They alone control the greatest culinary secret in the universe, another accused. This is why humans are so powerful. They have access to the forbidden meat. Sam raised his hands. Whoa, hold on. Nobody's hiding anything. They're just birds, man. Delicious, but normal birds. But it was too late. The galactic community had just realized something terrifying. Humans possessed a creature that should not exist. A creature that had once been a universal constant across countless civilizations. And then, just as the shouting reached its peak, a new voice cut through the chaos. This is unacceptable. The entire room turned toward the entrance of the banquet hall. Standing there was an alien unlike any other. Tall, regal, wrapped in deep red robes embroidered with golden patterns. Their presence alone sent a chill through the crowd. Ralzek inhaled sharply. The Cathari High Order. The Cathari were the oldest known civilization in the galaxy. They rarely interfered with galactic politics, preferring to observe from a distance. If they had arrived in person, it meant only one thing. This mystery was far more serious than anyone had realized. The Cathari representative stepped forward, their piercing yellow eyes locking onto Sam. Human, you will tell us everything. You know about the creature you call chicken. Sam let out a nervous laugh. Guys? It's just a bird. The Cathari narrowed their eyes. No, human, it is not. The Cathari representative's voice was chillingly calm, but there was no mistaking the urgency in their words. Every creature in the room had gone silent, their attention entirely focused on Sam. Even the Cathari's glowing eyes seemed to pulse with an otherworldly intensity. Human, the Cathari began, their voice like the hiss of a dying star. For countless eons, we have observed the galaxy. Our species has traversed the stars before many of your civilizations even existed. We have cataloged the rise and fall of species, the birth of entire star systems. And in all this time, we have come to understand a terrible truth. One that, perhaps you are unaware of. The room held its breath. Sam could feel the sweat beading on his forehead. I'm not following. What truth? The Cathari raised a hand, signaling the crowd to remain silent. There is a creature, a primordial being, older than the stars themselves. It is the progenitor of all life in the galaxy. But its form has been lost to history. Sam blinked, his mind struggling to comprehend what he was hearing. Wait, you're saying that chickens are some ancient galaxy-spanning thing? The Cathari nodded slowly, the weight of their words settling over the room like a shroud. Yes, Every species in the galaxy has a myth, a story of a beast, a creature that was once everywhere. It was the first source of nourishment, of life itself. Some call it the ancestor beast. Some call it the great provider. It was a species that could adapt to any environment, could be consumed by any species, and it would always taste the same. The same flavor, the same texture. It was a creature of pure, untainted essence. The insectoid diplomat from the clacks leaned forward. But we thought it was a myth, an ancient tale passed down by our ancestors to explain the origins of life. It was never a myth, the Cathari interrupted, their gaze intense. It was hidden. Across the galaxy, the creature was hunted to extinction, erased from the records of every species. Its genetic traces were deliberately wiped from history. But somehow, somewhere, the creature survived. And now, it seems, humans have discovered it. A wave of disbelief swept through the room. The Cathari continued. You see, human, the chicken is not simply a bird. It is a genetic remnant of the first life form to ever exist in this galaxy. The primeval organism, the very source of all life, across every species. Its DNA is embedded in the foundations of the galaxy itself. Sam felt his stomach twist. This is insane. You're telling me that chickens are the origin of life? Not the chicken, human, the Cathari said, their voice almost pitying. But the ancestor of the chicken, the creature your species has, without knowing, been breeding for millennia. The room was spinning. Sam had been around the galaxy, enough to know that things rarely made sense, but this was on a completely different level. But if it's so important, why hasn't anyone else, found it? Because we, along with countless other species, were not meant to, the Cathari replied. The creature was erased from the records for a reason. Its power was far too great. If any one species were to discover it, they would have an unparalleled advantage over the rest of the galaxy. The balance of power would be destroyed. Ralzek's eyes narrowed as he processed the words. You mean to tell me that the humans have stumbled upon the source of all life? The Cathari's gaze turned toward Sam. Not stumbled, Captain. They have recovered it. And now they are unknowingly breeding it, using it for food, creating a supply of this ancient and incredibly potent genetic material. If they choose to weaponize it, we won't weaponize it, Sam cut in, standing up in alarm. I swear, I don't know what you guys are talking about. We just eat chickens. It's food. The Cathari did not respond immediately. Instead, their long fingers reached up and tapped their chin in contemplation. After a long pause, they spoke again, their tone softer, more calculating. Human, I believe you. But your species is about to become a very dangerous force. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy will have to reckon with the truth of its origins. The chicken, or rather, the creature from which it descended, is no mere food. It is a cornerstone of creation. The power of all civilizations is at stake. The murmurs in the room were deafening. Sam's mind was racing, but one thing became clear. Humanity had unwittingly unlocked a secret that the entire galaxy had desperately tried to suppress. Ralzek leaned back, his 4 eyes gleaming with thought. And what will the Cathari do about it? The Cathari studied Sam carefully. For now, we wait. But the balance of the galaxy has shifted. You will not be left alone in this discovery. Sam's heart skipped a beat. What are you talking about? What's going to happen? The Cathari did not answer immediately. Instead, they turned to leave, their robe trailing behind them like a shadow. You will soon find out, human. And when you do, you will have to decide what kind of species you truly want to be. The Cathari's warning echoed in Sam's mind long after the alien had left the room. What kind of species do you want to be? Those words kept replaying, carrying with them a weight Sam couldn't yet comprehend. What did that mean for humanity? What had they unlocked? And why? Was the galaxy so afraid of it? The room, once filled with lively debate, had grown unnervingly quiet. The representatives from the different species looked at Sam with a mix of awe, suspicion, and in some cases, fear. His discovery had shaken the very foundation of galactic politics. The chicken wasn't just a food item, it was the key to something far greater, something none of them fully understood yet. Ralzek, ever the skeptic, was the first to break the silence. "You should have kept your species' secret hidden," the Klax growled. "By revealing this to us, you have opened Pandora's box. There is no going back." Sam shook his head. "I didn't reveal anything. I'm just trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Why does it matter so much that chickens taste like these ancestor beasts? I'm just a guy trying to survive in this galaxy like everyone else." The Zenth scholar tapped their holographic display nervously. "What you fail to realize, human, is that your chicken may be the catalyst for an intergalactic shift. Do you have any idea how many species have legends about this beast?" Sam was growing more confused by the second. "What legends? Why is this such a big deal?" The Tavari warrior spoke with a deep, rumbling voice. "We believed that our ancestors had seen the ancestor beast, but we never thought it could still exist. It's said to be the creature that shaped the very fabric of life. That thing, the chicken, could change everything." Sam's pulse quickened. He was beginning to understand. His planet had unknowingly been farming a creature so powerful that it could reshape entire civilizations. But how? Why hadn't anyone made the connection earlier? "What's the Cathari's angle in all of this?" Sam asked, his mind racing. Ralzek's expression hardened. "The Cathari have their own agenda. They are the keepers of knowledge, the ones who observe without interference. But when something threatens the delicate balance of the galaxy, they step in. And this chicken, this ancient beast, is a threat." Sam was about to ask more questions when the room's doors slid open, and a new figure entered. This time, it wasn't a representative from the galactic hub. It was a human. Sam's heart skipped. This wasn't just any human. The newcomer had a familiar face. A face Sam had seen only in classified military files. The uniform was unmistakable. The black and red insignia of the United Earth Special Forces. "Captain Carter," the stranger said, locking eyes with Sam. "We need to talk." The room fell silent as the human officer made his way to Sam. His expression was grim, and there was something cold about his presence. He was no diplomat, no scientist. He was military, and when the military got involved, it meant things had gotten serious. "Who are you?" Sam asked, standing slowly. The officer didn't answer immediately. Instead, he handed Sam a small data chip. "You'll want to see this." Sam inserted the chip into a nearby terminal. A holographic display flickered to life, showing a map of the galaxy. A map Sam recognized, but with one major difference. Hidden in the deep, uncharted sectors were several star systems marked in red, each with coordinates that seemed intentionally erased from known galactic records. The officer's voice was low. "These systems are the key. They are the ones where the ancestor beast was last known to exist. And we have reason to believe that your chicken is the direct descendant of the original creature. We need to find out who, or what, has been hiding it all these years." Sam's heart raced. "What do you mean, hiding it? How is this even possible?" The officer's gaze hardened. "Someone doesn't want the truth getting out. Someone who's been using the genetic material of the ancestor beast for far more than just food." The room erupted into murmurs. The Zenth scholar clutched their tentacles in shock. The Tavari warrior looked alarmed, and Ralzek, usually so composed, had a look of disgust on his face. "You're saying there are others who have been breeding this creature?" Ralzek asked, his voice sharp. The officer nodded. "Not just breeding it, using its DNA to create bioweapons, military technologies, and potentially an army of enhanced soldiers. The chicken isn't just a food source. It's a weapon of mass destruction." The realization hit Sam like a ton of bricks. The galaxy had been playing a dangerous game with the most powerful biological weapon in existence, and humanity, without even knowing it, had been sitting on the very source. "So what do we do now?" Sam asked, his voice trembling slightly. The officer leaned closer, his expression cold. "We find out who's behind this, and we stop them before it's too late. Because if we don't, the entire galaxy will pay the price." The officer, Captain Carter, didn't waste any time. His sharp eyes flicked from Sam to the rest of the room, noting the reactions of the galactic representatives. It was clear that everyone in the room now understood the gravity of the situation, but it wasn't enough. Sam could see the tension rising. The questions were piling up, and the answers were growing more elusive by the second. "Listen up," Carter began, his voice authoritative but urgent. "We have a silent war brewing in the galaxy, one that most of you don't even know about. The ancestor beast, this chicken, is more than just food. It's been weaponized, and someone's been using its genetic code to create a new breed of soldiers, genetically enhanced to be stronger, faster, more adaptable than any species in the galaxy. And now they've made a breakthrough." Sam's blood ran cold. "You mean to tell me they've been using chicken DNA to make super soldiers?" "Exactly," Carter replied. "But it's not just soldiers. They've cracked the code to create entire armies, unstoppable forces designed to conquer and control. And that's why the Cathari and others are so nervous. They knew the power of this creature, and they've been doing everything in their power to suppress it. But now, the secrets are out. And it's not just about chickens anymore. It's about survival." Sam felt a knot form in his stomach. The implications of Carter's words were massive. Someone, some faction, had been manipulating the galaxy's most ancient creature, and humanity had just unknowingly become the key to everything. "Who's behind this?" Sam asked, feeling a strange mix of anger and disbelief. Carter hesitated. "That's the part we don't know. The systems in the map I showed you, they're marked with the highest level of secrecy. Whoever is behind this has been operating in the shadows for decades. We think it's a faction, an underground group of galactic elites. But we don't know who they are, where they're from, or what they want. We only know one thing for sure: they're willing to destroy entire civilizations to protect their secret." The room went silent again. The weight of the situation hung heavily in the air. Sam could see the fear in the eyes of the representatives, fear that had nothing to do with the chicken itself and everything to do with the unknown enemy they were facing. Ralzek was the first to speak. "If they have control over this creature's genetic code, then we are all at risk. The balance of power will shift completely. No one will be safe." "That's why we need to act fast," Carter said, turning his eyes back to Sam. "You're the only one who can help us. Your species is unknowingly at the center of this. You've been breeding the one thing that could tip the scales. You're going to have to make some hard choices." Sam's mind was spinning. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't know any of this was happening." "No one did," Carter replied. "But now that you know, there's no going back. You're in this whether you like it or not, and the fate of the galaxy rests on your next move." Sam took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. The pressure was overwhelming, but he couldn't ignore the reality. Humanity had unlocked something far bigger than anyone had imagined, and now it was up to him to figure out how to stop it before it was too late. "What do we do now?" Sam asked, looking around the room at the alien representatives. They were watching him closely, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. The Zenth scholar spoke up. "We need a plan. We can't just rush in blind. Whoever controls the genetic secrets of this creature is likely to have access to some of the most advanced technology in the galaxy. We'll need intelligence, we'll need resources, and we'll need allies." "We're already outnumbered," Ralzek grunted, his mandibles clicking in frustration. "And if what you say is true, human, we may be facing a power that none of us can handle alone." Sam nodded. He had been thrown into a situation he didn't ask for, but now, there was no turning back. The galaxy's future was in his hands. But he wasn't alone in this. The representatives, despite their differences, were starting to realize that they needed each other to survive. "We'll need to find the source," Carter said, narrowing his eyes. "We need to find out who's behind all of this, and destroy their operation. We need to cut off the flow of this ancient power before it spreads any further." The clacks grunted in agreement. "Then we'll need ships, weapons, and an army. But where will we get those resources?" Sam could feel the tension building. He knew it was going to be a long, difficult road, but one thing was clear. This was no longer just about food. This was about survival. The stakes had just gotten a lot higher. The officer turned to Sam once more. "We've got to move quickly. Every minute we waste gives them a chance to cover their tracks. Are you ready to step up, Captain? Sam hesitated. For the first time in his life, he felt the weight of responsibility crushing him. This wasn't just about leading a crew or winning a battle. This was about saving an entire galaxy from falling into chaos. I'm ready, Sam finally said, his voice steady but filled with determination. Let's get to work. The mission had begun. The team, a strange and diverse alliance of galactic representatives and military personnel, was about to embark on a journey that could either save the galaxy or plunge it into an era of unthinkable chaos. Sam's mind raced as he sat in the sleek transport vessel, watching the stars streak by outside the windows. Captain Carter had laid out a plan. Find the hidden systems, infiltrate the enemy's operations, and destroy their research. It seemed simple enough, but Sam knew better. Nothing about this mission would be easy. The enemy was cunning, powerful, and operating in the shadows. If they didn't act quickly, they'd be caught in a trap they couldn't escape. Ral Zek, the Klax warrior, was hunched in the corner, sharpening his blades with a methodical precision. He hadn't spoken much since the briefing, but Sam could sense the tension in the air. The Klax were known for their strength in battle, but even they seemed wary of what lay ahead. The Tavari, a stoic race of telepathic beings, sat quietly in another corner. Their glowing eyes focused inward as if they were already communicating with each other on a level that Sam couldn't fully understand. The Zenth scholar, whose tentacles twitched with every passing thought, was busy accessing the encrypted data they had stolen from the enemy's network. The map had been their first breakthrough, hidden in the farthest reaches of the galaxy were planets and moons that had been intentionally erased from all known records. These were the places the ancestor beast's genetic material had been manipulated and weaponized. Sam looked at the map on the terminal in front of him, feeling the weight of what it represented. These weren't just forgotten corners of space. They were the epicenters of an emerging, galaxy-shaking power. We're almost there. Carter's voice cut through the quiet hum of the ship's engines. Brace yourselves. We're entering uncharted space. Sam's heart rate increased. As the ship slipped into the unknown, the tension in the air was palpable. The galaxy's most dangerous secret was just beyond their reach, and they had no idea what kind of defenses would await them. A sudden jolt rocked the ship as it entered the gravitational pull of an unfamiliar star system. We've arrived, Carter announced, his voice steady, but filled with an urgency that matched Sam's own growing sense of dread. They had arrived at one of the hidden systems, the first of many. As the ship coasted into orbit around a dark, barren planet, the crew prepared for their descent. Sam looked out the viewport, watching as the planet loomed large. It looked desolate from the outside, but Sam knew better. Beneath its surface, something far more sinister was waiting. The landing was uneventful, but the atmosphere on the planet felt off. Sam's instincts screamed at him. This wasn't a natural world. It had been shaped, molded, and crafted by someone who understood the power they wielded. Stay sharp, Carter ordered, his tone grim. We've got a facility to find. The research center should be just beyond the main city. Our priority is to locate the source and secure any data we can before the enemy realizes we're here. The team suited up, preparing for whatever might lie ahead. Sam's thoughts raced. The stakes had never been higher. One wrong move, and they would be outmatched, outgunned, and utterly out of time. The city they approached was nothing like any Sam had seen before. It was a maze of towering structures, half sunken into the ground, with streets lined by strange, glowing plants that flickered eerily in the dim light. There was a silence to the place, unnatural, unsettling. It was as if the very air was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. As they made their way toward the research center, the group was on edge. The tension was suffocating. Every shadow seemed to shift, every distant sound amplified by the eerie silence that surrounded them. It was too quiet for comfort. We're close, the Zenth scholar muttered, tapping their datapad. This is it? The facility is just ahead. The group approached a massive, heavily fortified compound, its perimeter lined with automated defenses and patrolling guards. Sam felt a bead of sweat trickle down his neck. There was no turning back now. We'll have to get past the outer perimeter first, Carter said, his voice low. Ralzek, you're up. The Klax warrior stepped forward with a predatory grin, his blades gleaming in the low light. "Leave the guards to me." The Tovari telepathic duo began coordinating their efforts, subtly influencing the minds of the outer sentries to create distractions and weaknesses in their patrol patterns. It was a delicate operation, one that required perfect synchronization. As the team moved in, Sam's thoughts kept drifting back to the chicken, to the ancestor beast. How could something as seemingly innocent as a farm animal hold the key to the galaxy's future? And who were these shadowy figures pulling the strings from the dark corners of the galaxy? They infiltrated the facility with surprising ease, the guards too distracted to notice the intruders slipping past their defenses. But once inside, they were met with a chilling sight. Rows upon rows of containment chambers lined the walls, each holding a variety of life forms, all seemingly genetically altered. Some were familiar, while others were unrecognizable. And in the center of the room, encased in a glass container, was the thing that had started it all. A creature that looked almost like a chicken. Sam's breath caught in his throat. The ancestor beast, genetically modified, twisted, and reshaped, was more than just a food source. It was the raw material of an intergalactic nightmare, and the galaxy's fate rested on its destruction. Inside the cold, sterile walls of the facility, the air felt thick with the weight of discovery. Sam and his team stood before the containment chamber, their eyes locked on the twisted, horrifying creature that lay inside. It resembled a chicken, but only just. Its once feathery body had been replaced with a sleek, almost metallic sheen. The legs were unnaturally long and strong, and its eyes, those eyes, glowed with a deep, unnatural red. What happened to it? Sam muttered under his breath, unable to tear his gaze away. The creature was so far removed from the chicken Sam knew. This was something entirely different. Carter's voice was grim. This isn't just a genetic mutation. This is what they've been experimenting on. Their weapon, their foundation. They've altered the DNA of this beast so much that it's become a whole new organism. And now, they've perfected it. The Zenth scholar moved closer to the containment chamber, carefully scanning the creature with a handheld device. The creature's genome is unlike anything we've seen before. It's a combination of aggressive traits, speed, strength, heightened endurance, and something more, something intelligent. Sam's mind raced. But why? Why turn chickens into weapons? The scholar looked up, his expression somber. Because the chicken's DNA is remarkably adaptable. It can survive in virtually any environment, and its rapid reproductive cycle means that it can be bred quickly and in large numbers. The potential for military application is enormous. Ralzek, still watching the creature from the corner of the room, hissed in disgust. This is no longer just an animal, it's a weapon, and whoever controls this creature controls the future of the galaxy. Exactly, Carter agreed. The creature's genetic potential is limitless. They've built armies from its DNA, bred new soldiers who can thrive in any environment and adapt to any threat. But it's not just the chicken anymore. They've integrated other genetic codes, alien, human, and more. It's a living bioweapon, designed to overpower everything. As Sam took all of this in, he felt a sickening realization creep over him. This wasn't just about saving the galaxy anymore. It was about preventing the weaponization of everything humanity and the galaxy's diverse races had ever known. This chicken was the first step to an unstoppable force that could obliterate everything. "We need to destroy it," Sam said, his voice firm. "We can't let this thing exist. If they're breeding armies from this, who knows what other horrors they've created?" Carter nodded. "We've been working on that. But first, we need to gather more intel. We need to find the labs where they've been conducting these experiments. We can't just destroy the creature and leave. The research is too valuable." Just as he spoke, a low, echoing sound reverberated through the facility. The ground seemed to tremble slightly beneath their feet. Sam felt a chill run down his spine. "What was that?" Ralzek growled, his sharp senses alert. Carter's face tightened. "Trouble!" Without another word, the team sprang into action. The previously silent halls now came alive with the sound of boots hitting the floor, the sharp hum of security systems coming online, and the distant whine of alarm sirens. Someone, somewhere, had noticed their intrusion. "We've been compromised," Carter barked, moving toward a side hallway. "We need to move, now!" The team scrambled, rushing through the labyrinthine halls of the facility, the sound of approaching guards growing louder with every passing second. Sam could feel his heart pounding in his chest. The stakes were higher than ever, and now they were racing against time to escape with their lives and the fate of the galaxy intact. As they rounded a corner, Sam spotted something that made his blood run cold. A large group of heavily armed soldiers was heading straight for them, their weapons aimed and ready. It was clear they weren't here to negotiate. "We're not getting out that way," Sam said, his voice low but urgent. "We'll have to take them out." Carter nodded grimly. "Get into position. We fight our way out." Ralzek was already preparing his blades, his mandibles clicking in anticipation. The Tavari duo communicated silently, creating a mental shield around the group to protect them from the initial blast. Sam drew his weapon, the weight of it a stark reminder of the responsibility resting on his shoulders. He had never signed up for this kind of fight, but he wasn't about to back down now. The enemy soldiers approached, but they weren't prepared for the ferocity of the team. Ralzek moved first, his blade slashing through the air in a blur of motion. The sound of metal clashing against armor echoed down the hall. The Tavari used their psychic abilities to disorient the soldiers, while Carter barked orders and fired his own weapon with deadly precision. Sam ducked behind cover, watching as the battle unfolded in front of him. The guards were strong, well-equipped, but they were no match for the diverse abilities of the team. It wasn't long before the fight turned in their favor. The last of the soldiers crumpled to the ground, their weapons rendered useless. Sam looked around, breathing heavily. "We're clear, for now." But Carter didn't share the same relief. His face was grim as he stared down the hallway where the soldiers had come from. This was just a small outpost. "The main lab is deeper inside. We've got to keep moving before reinforcements arrive." Sam nodded. They weren't done yet. The team moved quickly through the facility, searching for any clues that could lead them to the main research center. But with every step, the stakes grew higher. The closer they got to the heart of the operation, the more dangerous it became. And the closer they got to discovering the truth behind the chicken, and the galaxy-shaking power it held. They were almost there. Sam's pulse quickened with each step. Every corner they turned, every locked door they breached, brought them closer to the heart of the enemy's operation. The team had already taken out multiple squads of guards and navigated through corridors filled with high-tech defenses, but Sam knew they were racing against time. They couldn't afford another delay. The research center was just ahead, a massive, fortified structure at the center of the facility. Inside, everything they had fought for would either make sense or fall apart. "This is it," Carter whispered, his voice filled with a sense of finality. "We break in, grab whatever intel we can, and then we leave. Fast and clean." Sam nodded, his mind already racing through contingencies. They had a mission to complete, but there was a part of him that couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to uncover something far more disturbing than they had ever imagined. They approached the entrance to the research center. The door was heavily reinforced, but the Zenth scholar's device hummed to life as it analyzed the security system. In a matter of seconds, the door slid open with a soft hiss. What they saw inside made Sam's stomach churn. Rows of containment chambers, similar to the one with the genetically altered chicken, lined the walls of the lab. But these weren't just any creatures. They were hybrids, twisted combinations of human, alien, and animal DNA. Some were barely recognizable as life forms, while others appeared to be perfect, nearly human-like in appearance, but with grotesque, unsettling traits. "What the hell?" Sam muttered, unable to look away from the horrors around him. Carter's face hardened. This is what they've been doing. Creating soldiers, weapons, new species from the most resilient DNA they could find. And now, they've perfected it. The Tavari's telepathic abilities flickered as they scanned the room, their mental shields blocking the worst of the emotions rushing through the lab's sterile walls. "They've been experimenting with more than just chickens," the Tavari murmured. "They've used every possible genetic source, humans, aliens, anything they can get their hands on. But the chicken, it's the foundation." Sam's eyes narrowed. "Why chicken? Why start with that?" Ralzek growled softly. It's the adaptability. Chickens can survive almost anywhere. They breed fast, they're tough, and they thrive in harsh conditions. If they can weaponize that, they can breed an army faster than anything else. And the best part, they can be molded into anything they want. Sam clenched his jaw, understanding the full scope of what they were up against. This wasn't just a fight for survival. This was a battle for control of the galaxy itself. The enemy had created the ultimate weapon. A weapon that could evolve, adapt, and conquer. And the foundation of that power came from something as innocuous as a chicken. "We need to find the core of their operation," Carter said. "Their main facility, where they're conducting the bulk of the genetic research. It's buried deep beneath the surface." The team set off again, moving deeper into the heart of the facility. They passed through more chambers, each containing different types of experiments, each more disturbing than the last. Sam could barely process what he was seeing, but one thing was clear. If they didn't stop this, the galaxy would be enslaved by these monstrous creations. Finally, they reached the center of the operation, a massive subterranean lab. In the center of the room was a large cylindrical container, filled with a strange, glowing substance. The walls were lined with computers, screens flashing with data that Sam couldn't begin to understand. "This is it," Carter said, his voice thick, with determination. "This is where they've been breeding the next phase of the ancestor beast, the ultimate hybrid." Sam felt a cold shiver crawl up his spine. The ancestor beast, the genetic template for the chicken. But what had they created from it now? What kind of abomination had they been incubating in secret? As the team moved closer to the container, Sam's heart dropped. Inside was a creature that was the perfect amalgamation of every terrifying experiment they had seen so far. It was a hybrid, human, alien, chicken. Its body an intricate tapestry of DNA manipulation. It was clear now that the enemy's goal was not just to create soldiers. They were creating a new kind of life form, one capable of absolute control. "This is the ultimate weapon," the Zenth scholar whispered, awe and horror mixing in his voice. "The culmination of their experiments. They've taken the most adaptable DNA and merged it with every species they could find, resulting in something truly monstrous. A super being with the strength of a Klax, the intellect of a Tavari, and the resilience of a chicken." Sam felt sick. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about erasing an entire species, eradicating a threat unlike anything the galaxy had ever known. "We can't let this thing live," Carter said, his voice steely. "If we destroy this, we destroy the entire operation." The team set to work, preparing to destroy the creature and everything it represented. But just as they began to make their move, a voice echoed through the lab, cold, mocking, and unmistakably human. "You think you can stop this?" The figure that emerged from the shadows was none other than the mastermind behind the operation, the person who had orchestrated the rise of the chicken and the genetic horrors that followed. His face was masked, but the glint of power in his eyes was unmistakable. "You've just triggered the final phase of my plan," the man sneered. "And now, there's no escape." As the lights flickered and alarms blared, Sam knew this wasn't over. The true battle for the galaxy was about to begin. Sam clenched his jaw, understanding the full scope of what they were up against. This wasn't just a fight for survival. This was a battle for control of the galaxy itself. The enemy had created the ultimate weapon, a weapon that could evolve, adapt, and conquer. And the foundation of that power came from something as innocuous as a chicken.